What's happening, guys? Welcome into another boxing breakdown and prediction show for this weekend's welterweight clash between Errol Spence and Yordenis Ugas over on Fox PBC pay-per-view this weekend. So let's get into it. Now, Spence comes into this one as the massive, goes anywhere between minus 600, minus 650, minus 700 favourite right now. Couple of books showing a couple of different numbers. And, that's a long, long way from where this fight originally opened up at earlier in the year. Spence was priced at around a minus 350 when this line first opened up. So, there's been an absolutely huge drift on Spence there. Money's obviously come pouring in on him. And Ugas comes back at a plus 450. So, I'm just going to get into how I see this fight playing out. I think this fight will be an incredibly tactical affair throughout. Both fighters employ terrific jabs. Both fighters are kind of very economical in their movement as well. I think there'll be a lot of jockeying for position in the middle of the ring in this fight. The lead hand for both fighters is so important. And I just see it being a real chess match in there between, two of the top guys in this division. I do think you have to factor in Spence's inactivity to a certain degree in this one. His last fight was all the way back in 2020. And, while he won that fight fairly convincingly against Danny Garcia, some questions obviously still remain about that eye. As he was forced to pull out of his last fight against Manny Pacquiao because of it. For those who don't know, Errol Spence was involved in a massive car accident back in 2019. It was all over the news. He got flung from his car. Actually, luckily enough, wasn't wearing a seatbelt in that one, which might have saved his life as he was, flung meters into the air, landed on the side. And was really, really lucky to survive that crash, never mind fight again. So, that was a concern in terms of how this would impact his career moving forward. He said in interviews as well that he suffers bouts of PTSD in fights, not in fights sometimes, but just in general life, with oncoming traffic from time to time. So, red lights and so on. So it's definitely a concern ahead of this fight. Plus, the fact he had all types of injuries, around that eye as well. And while he was able to come back and win that fight against Danny Garcia last time out, despite the crash, in his slated fight last summer against Manny Pacquiao, as we mentioned, Spence was forced to pull out of that fight a few weeks before it was due to take place due to a torn retina, which he most likely picked up in the Garcia fight, as they would have flagged it in the pre-fight screening if it had to come directly from the crash itself. But, we know one thing from detached retinas. Once you have one, your chances of a second one increase dramatically. There was an eye specialist, a surgeon, who talked about this at length with, I believe it was Bad Left Hook last year. His advice in that article was for Spence to simply retire, that the risk was too great to his eyesight. Obviously, he's a surgeon, so he has to consider the worst possible, outcomes there. But even so, as talented as Spence is, and there's no question he is immensely talented. Do you really want to lay minus 700 with a guy who we know now has severe eye issues and, as stated, he suffers from, a few bouts of PTSD as well. So, that's not for me at that kind of price. Overall, I just think it will affect Spence's style moving forward. The guy we saw hunting down Chris Algieri and Kell Brook earlier in his career, I think that guy's gone at this point. But what makes Spence such a brilliant fighter, and arguably one who belongs on the pound for pound list, is the fact he's so versatile in the ring. He showed in the Mikey Garcia fight how good he is boxing off the back foot, fighting at range. He probably could have stepped on the gas and finished that fight if he had wanted to. So I think we're going to see a more reserved Errol Spence from here on out, one who utilizes a lot more of that jab. One who looks to break down opponents from the outside a lot more, instead of coming in crashing the pocket with hooks. And that's probably in order to preserve his career at this point as well. He's fighting again Yordenis Ugas, who, while not a big puncher, is a sharpshooter in there. He employs a lot of accuracy on his punches. I mean, he was timing both Sean Porter and Manny Pacquiao to absolute perfection in their recent fights. So, Spence doesn't want to get reckless in there. It's likely Spence will take a few rounds as well to get warmed up on this fight. We saw that with Triple G last week, where kind of 18 months of inactivity kind of caught up with him early until he got into his rhythm. So Ugas will likely have the better of the exchanges early in this one. Overall, I think Ugas is just too big of a price here. He's too good at that price. We know everybody wants to see the Terence Crawford-Errol Spence fight, potentially at the end of the summer. PBC have already made an offer to Bud to come over and fight the winner of this fight, provided he takes the deal. So, that would be an absolutely massive unification fight down at welterweight. It's one the public have been, absolutely clamoring for years. I personally prefer, Boots and Ortiz right now, but, Spence and Crawford, obviously still such a massive, massive fight. The only thing standing in the way of that potentially, is Ugas here. So the pessimist in me says that, if this fight is tight, if it's tough to score, they're going to give it to Spence here. But, a plus 450, as I said, I have to put some pizza money on that. Ugas is absolutely top level in this division. He's got that Cuban pedigree. Very, very smart fighter. And because I think the fight will be so close as well, I like the outright draw here, plus 1,800. That's got a real possibility of landing in this fight. Draws are usually priced around the plus 2,200 range as well. So, the books are obviously anticipating this one to be closer than usual as well. I'm going to basically split these players up, gun to head. If I absolutely had to make a pick to save my life, I think Spence will eke out a close decision win here. I think with everything on the line, and especially what's at stake moving forward with the Terence Crawford fight, I think anything resembling a close fight here will probably go Spence's way. But, at minus 150, not a whole ton of value there in fairness. I also think the fight goes the distance as well. Both guys incredibly crafty in there, top-level boxers, very, very skilled, and provided Spence eyes are okay, I just don't see a stoppage in this one either. However, again, books have priced that one correctly as well, minus 250. So while it's extremely likely to happen, that this fight makes it the full 12 rounds, minus 250, again, is a little bit too high for me personally. I think the best value on the board is honestly the outright draw plus 1,800. That's an absolutely massive price, and I think it's got a real shot of landing with how both of these guys set up in there. I also like Ugas, obviously, at a straight plus 450 as well. I think the opening odds of plus 275 for Ugas were a lot more in line with how close I see this fight playing out. And, with the fresh bump up to plus 450, you have to take a piece of that for your card as well. So if you're looking for safer options, Spence to win on points minus 150, fight to go the distance prop minus 250, both perfectly fine. I semi-expect them to cash, especially the distance prop. But we like to go big on this show, give out the big prices. And I'm going to take a shot with the outright drop, massive, plus 1,800 in what I expect to be an incredibly close fight on Saturday night between Spence and Ugas. So that's going to do it from me. That'll wrap things up for this episode. As always, leave us your thoughts in the comment section below. And you can also catch me over on Twitter at the SportsWolf83 and at my handicapper page, Kevin Dolan over at WagerTalk. As always, thanks for listening. Till next time, Slán